That's terrible. Welcome, folks, to FMA Discussion. This is episode 457. Today's going to be more theme-oriented. What you guys just saw there, should excessive night tactics be shown on social media? I dare not go into the movies, but we're going to cover social media today. And do we bear responsibility in that regard as instructors? What, potentially, the bad guys, like you just saw in that movie, could potentially use against police, fellow man, whatever. And we're going to cover that today. The pros and cons. We're not going to be telling you what you should or shouldn't do. We're just going to kind of highlight some stuff and leave it out there for you to make your own choice, right? However, since it's more theme-oriented, if you have an interest in seeing Guro Joel's previous episode, where it's more bio, what he's doing, his journey, kids program, and all that, I highly recommend that. That is episode 121, which just seems so long ago. But check that out, episode 121. And that's, again, more in his bio. Today, for today's purposes, more theme. If you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button. And poor Kevin Goat can't use his vet because it's 40 degrees below zero. Well, and without further ado, I'm bringing Guro Joel up now.
So Kevin's cold, eh?
Well, I guess. So what? I guess he's going to spare the community, not scaring him away when he's driving around in that. You know what I mean? And that, yeah. So I think it's luckily for the folks in Calgary that they're not going to be exposed to him. I am just going to talk about him and all that. And if I do, when I see him next, he'll forget about it and just it won't be an issue. So I'm just going.
You got a little man crush on him.
Sasquatch. They found Sasquatch. He's right in Alberta. He's been known to drive around the vet. I'm gonna pay for this someday. Oh my God, this is actually true. So he's taking me back into the airport. It's kind of a funny story, and so we pulled up his Tesla. Now, mind you, the only thing I know about Teslas is that they're electric. I didn't know they were that fast or quick. You know what I mean? Apparently they are. So you can kind of tell this guy wants to kind of just see what Kevin's vet's all about. And he just kick it. Wheels are going and all that. But the Tesla, surprising to me, was has some power, which I wasn't under the impression they did. So that was, yeah. So anyway, short, funny story on my way back to the airport, him trying to kill me. So, all right. Well, hey, great to have you back on. I know it's been a while, and we are going to actually, in addition to this, you back on for your book. So yeah, I definitely want to cover that. That's worthy. But I thought, when I ran across this, I thought this was so important to talk about, from a community perspective, and bearing, do we bear that responsibility? So I wanted to get this before we jump into that, because I just think this is so relevant and important, and I think you probably agree. Oh, and they have, you guys, as you know, there's A&Ws all over there. It's a fond memory when I was a kid. They got rid of them in Connecticut. So I saw an A&W. I said, look, I have to go there. You got to. So he was so kind to oblige my childhood memory. So
did you have a root beer?
Is that?
Did you have a root beer?
I probably should have. I figured but just the fact that I was able to go there was enough.
But it's not like the old days. They don't put that tray on the window of your car,
They used to back in the day. That's why I remember being a kid. They'd come out there. Yeah. Yep. We went through the drive-through. So yeah. But you know what though? It was still
all right. We had drive.
It was still a memory with Kevin,
Nice.
All right. So I guess before we dive into it, what was the propelling, or what basically like wanted you to make the video that you did? What was the inspiration behind that video for the community to see?
Well, I question whether or not, because I've heard this so many times, and honestly, I believe I don't believe that uh, bad guys are scouring social media for content to help them be better bad guys. I, I've looked at my analytics, and like, I'll give you an example. My YouTube channel, um, its audience is ages 2%, 2.4% are ages 18 to 24. 9.8% are ages 25 to 34.
Interesting.
35 to 44 is 22.5%. 45 to 54 are 31.5%. 55 to 64 are 24.2%. And 65 plus 9.9%. And when you look at knife crime, uh,
Mm,
the stats I've been able to find, 55% of violent crime are committed by kids aged 15 to 17. Ages 13 to 24 account for the majority of knife crime in the UK. Those age groups aren't even watching my channel. I'm not saying that they can't find stuff on there,
but
like,
generally
because
speaking, they're not watching it, right? Yeah.
there's definitely things on there that, um, if they wanted to, they could look at and maybe apply. But if somebody's bad, they already know how to use a knife. Stick it into the other guy. Stick it in aggressively and go after the other guy.
Good point. Yeah, they already know, right? Okay.
And the biggest connection of media to violence, um, that I've been able to find in my research is entertainment, and a big time is video games.
Mm,
In fact, the Surgeon General of the United States has been speaking out against that for a long time. The U.S. Army, it's also made kids better at doing, like, better at shooting,
mm,
better. You know, it's there was if you've read Lieutenant David Grossman's book, he's on combat. He spends a lot of time talking about this. He's actually written books on it and the dangers of exposing media violence to children, and things like that. That's the biggest danger in violence. It's not some old guy on social media stabbing a dummy to promote um, edged weapons training. Uh,
mm.
and to be honest, as well, in my personal experience, I've never had the guys who come to my class. I've never had anybody questionable come to an Arnis class, come to a combatives class.
You've
When
never? No?
No, no, when
No, I've had a couple not come to class. It's just like, in other words, just walk in per se, but definitely a couple phone calls of the particular questions they were asking that rose some eyebrows.
yeah, yeah, and that's when you say your class is full. I have
Yeah, I kind of, in a
I,
way, I did say something. Yeah, I don't know if it was that, but yeah.
yeah. Um, when I had an MMA gym renting my space, there were two people in particular who got their that talk. They're charming. They got their way into that MMA gym, and it got to the point where we realized, the instructor realized that they weren't good people. They got sent away. Even the guy who was a fight promoter was trying to get us to train the local bar thug so he could be the headliner on an MMA card.
Okay.
And I said no. I said no, right? And he's a nice guy. He's just misguided in that idea of, because this guy was a, he was he and he was a, don't get me wrong. when I told him no, he was very polite. He was actually more polite than the promoter, and accepted that. Yeah, he said, "Yeah, I get it. I get it. I understand. You run a family business."
Yeah, yeah, right. You got families, you got kids going in there. I mean, understood. So, I mean, thank you for those statistics, by the way. I was not, obviously you did your due diligence, and I thank you for that. That was
This
really
is
informative, especially the metrics or the database that you were able to extract regarding like who's watching your channel,
my
the demographics. That's wow. Huh.
my channel might be different because I used to call it the Old Geezer Martial Arts Channel.
Oh, see, now you get.
So so that might change now that I've changed the name, right?
Okay, that would be interesting if it did
I,
change.
I would, but it's never. I've never attracted a young, you know, uh, and I have never found that. And I've been around. I've been around people, and not everybody I've been around have been good people.
Unfortunately.
I mean, through work and stuff like that, I've known some people were involved in this lifestyle. I mean, we got along, but there was always disdain to, oh, you do that stuff with those little sticks, or you know. Whereas Thai boxing, like they could respect that I was a Thai boxer. They could respect that the pugilism. They weren't
Mm,
interested in Filipino martial arts, and we don't want
the
them to.
unknown. It's the unknown of it. So I think, you know what I mean? Like much you say, they can associate Thai boxing, they can associate boxing. But when it comes to, you know, the eclectics, so CELA and FMA, if they never heard them, I mean, they're automatically kind of suspect. I think, anyway.
Yeah,
Hmm.
honestly, I I think there's more. There's just as much, if not a broader level of information being given to on using a knife. Like that one video I sent you from that movie Blue Ruin.
Yeah.
Like
Jeez.
how long was that? And it's
Well,
very
yeah.
on, right? Um, even the eyes blinking as the guy's dying, I was like, holy, that's awful.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, I mean, if obviously revealing, you know. But yeah,
And old Henry, when he stabs that guy, it was straight out of the Medusa handbook, you know? Um, it was latch and stab.
latch, yeah. So, wow, wow, wow. Okay. Pros and cons of sharing, and we'll stick within the lens of knife.
Okay.
Pros and cons of sharing vids via social media, and then we'll tap into what capacity. What are your settings, privacy? Are they open just where anybody's seeing them? Or but first, pros and cons of sharing knife videos.
Well, the pro that I see in it is that um, we are giving people an interest in something that we have to offer. We are also creating that ideal that in the worst case scenario,
Mm.
you're okay to use, like in the worst case scenario, there is this level of force available to you, especially if you live in a country that has no has laws where weapons carry is not possible, such as where I live. So now you need to be able to improvise what if
Mm.
ever are in that situation, right? And um, I I truly believe that we have to be, and we are, our own first responders. And the police would love to be there. I know I talked to a few members of our detachment. I've talked to them over the years, but response times in a small town like this where
Mm.
they could be 50 kilometers away on an incident on the highway, and that's the only officers who are on duty. You
That's a
have
long time.
I have waited 40 minutes after calling 911.
Wow.
I have there was an incident where I put a guy down, like not like, I was gentle to him. I
Mm.
laid, because he was just a drunk trying to hurt me. And when the police were called, it took them, like, I had enough time to sit him up, help him up, brush him off, talk to him,
Make him presentable.
tell him, listen to him cry about life, how
Yeah,
hard
yeah,
attacking me again.
yeah.
And so it took a half hour. I was a block from the police station. It took a half hour for the police to get there.
Um,
Right. And the quickest I've ever seen them show up is 10 minutes.
that's
10
still, man.
long
10
time.
minutes, I mean, 10 minutes, obviously, from you would be an eternity in a situation like that, but maybe
Yeah.
for them,
Yeah.
that it's like, hey, I got here in 10 minutes. I mean, I don't, you know.
And so the pros to me are reaching out to other people who are security minded, who
Yeah.
might have the ability to have various scales of force available to them.
Okay.
So that's and if you watch any of my videos, I always, and I hate having to say it, escape, evade,
Yeah.
delete. It's always something you need. That's got to be exhausted first before you use force. You have to be able to reassess at every at in a moment, in a quick
Mm.
moment. Doing what a lot of self-defense experts like Randy King call high speed problem solving. And if you are not able to scale your use of force, if you're not able to pull back when you need to pull back, then it's not for you. It's not for you. If you're a rageaholic, it's
Yeah, I
not.
know. Like if you're ready just to go to 0 to 10 over somebody that maybe flipped you off or something.
Yeah, yeah. If you're
Mhm.
an egomaniac who can't laugh at you know
Yeah.
someone cut you off in traffic, instead of getting
Mm.
mad, go, oh yeah, I did that the other day, right? Because I make mistakes too, right? And just see them,
Uh-oh. You guys heard it here. Joel.
you know, if you can't do
Yeah.
that, you can't put yourself there. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing any martial arts. If you
Yeah, I
don't
don't
have,
disagree with you. I mean, if you can't even control your own emotional.
that is the danger of exposing this information. There is that side, right? So I'm I see the danger, but I don't believe that we attract that crowd, in my experience.
Based on the demographics that you research, in other words, 13 to 24, generally speaking, are not watching
No,
guys our age videos or in general.
videos on video, they're watching how to get better. They're watching videos on video games. They're watching and they're watching violence that way, and they're watching a lot of violence that
So
way.
do you think they're more prone to see stuff and maybe stuff from movies, theaters, as opposed to YouTube content?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, okay, fair enough.
No context to it other than in those forms.
Mm.
Those, it doesn't have somebody saying, this is the worst case scenario. It doesn't have
Yeah,
any.
right. They're not spelling it out or right. Okay.
It has the hero getting power,
Yeah,
getting the lady, getting everything he needs.
right.
Violence. That is way more damaging than somebody doing a martial arts demo.
Mm.
Way more. That is a serious issue in our culture, and it's
Mm.
one. The Surgeon General in your country has been talking about it for decades, along with they've made special councils about it. They've done studies on it. There's university studies on how it affects the development of the brain, and even how kids who have abnormal levels of um, aggression,
Mm.
their brains, like if it's to do with brain development, they've done they've shown how when they expose children to high levels of aggressive entertainment, and I wish I could remember the study this was done on. Um, it changes the brain chemistry to match those kids who naturally, because of their makeup, the way their brains have developed, have that same development. It creates the same development and takes away from their ability to use their frontal lobe. And the in the
Frontal lobe meaning problem solving.
yeah,
Okay.
and the other side of this is like men take longer to develop that, and that's why there's such a high level of aggression in young men. That's why there's such a high level of traumatic brain injury from misadventure in young men. And that's why when you teach, you need to maybe try and, unless you really know, like this stuff isn't, you can't teach kids 16, 17 because they're going to want to go out and use it. Put them in BJJ, put them in judo, put them in boxing.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, right, waiting to, yeah, I firmly believe that there's definitely should be an age where they're even exposed to certain stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you got 10 years of relationship with the kid.
Yeah, or family member, obviously. I mean, but much to, yeah, but those exceptions, though, I'm in definitely agreement with you. Like somebody who's just joined 2 months ago is not going to be seeing knife work. I'm sorry.
No, no.
Yeah.
And my combatives class, you're there. People, if I'm uncomfortable, you don't come. You don't come, right? I
Mhm.
put to people that I'm comfortable with sharing this information to, and I
Yeah.
honestly
Yeah.
don't believe that you know they're searching it for nefarious purposes. I think
Yeah.
the people who have nefarious um, idealization, most of them don't ever train. They just know stick the pointy end in the other guy. Now there is we do know the story about the terrorists who trained at a karate gym and did terrible things.
Mm.
But I think that's a tragic exception.
I try, yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, as far as frequency or
Yeah,
statistics, yeah.
yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm just going to catch up there, Guru Joel, on some folks that are watching. And so trying to work on not being rude. We already acknowledged Kevin.
How can you not?
Kevin, Terry. We got GM Ray. We got Nicholas. We got Maynard. We got Brett. You know this person, Amy Ashdown?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's trouble.
What's she like? I don't know. Yeah.
She's
We
pretty.
got Mike Raymond, Brian Canada. I'm seeing more and more reducer folks here. Jeez, hostile
Hello,
table.
everybody.
We got
Thank you.
Ludwig, Mike, California, and I'm just making sure we got Dennis. Hey, Dennis, Jimmy. Hey,
Wow.
and Mr. Williams, Emmanuel, and who's in Europe, I believe. We got Sean from Canada as well. And we got Kurt from Alaska, Eric, Brett Reese, and I think I'm caught up.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining.
absolutely, absolutely.
Hope you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
get at me with what I say.
And I'm just making sure I'm not missing a question. Oh, and Storm and Norman. All right. And why would you guys teach knife versus? All right, we'll get. Okay, we got. The guy Kevin sent a question in, but I think there's a question before that. Or the other exception is the guy who killed the bouncer in New York. Man, that story is. Yeah, I was with that group back then. Um, that story is still floating around, man. Gosh, it's been 20 years removed now, or actually 20 plus years removed. Okay. All right. I think I just saw it. Bear with me here. Okay. I did see. Here we go. Okay. This is from Kurt. As for the video game and consumption of violent content, isn't the bigger issue the lack of parenting and oversight? I think that's fair to a
well,
degree.
well, here's the problem, though. Here's the problem
Okay.
with parenting. We live in an economy where
Mm.
both are pretty much forced to,
Have to work.
and unfortunately, a lot of kids are spending too much time alone, and it is hurting their development, and it is hurt
Mm,
what they're exposed to. So yes, parenting is a huge part of it, and parents um, have to be aware of what their children are playing and watching, and
mm,
the rating system in the video games are a bare minimum. They are a minimum standard that you should follow, right? And on top of that, the other connection to youth violence, um, the lack of activities, lack of sports, lack of discipline,
mm,
getting your kids into a contact sport is a very important way, or gymnastics. It doesn't have to be a contact sport, but an organized sport. And there's a lot of indications that kids who are involved in after school activities, other than a lot of kids who shot up schools were in band, but outside of that, there's been there's really been no kids up to a certain point. I don't know about now, up to where I researched that there was one kid who went as far as yellow belt in martial arts, but he quit
mm.
very quickly.
Okay.
Um, Other than that, kids who are in boxing, kids who are in hockey, kids who are in team sports learn to have they have social skills that help them navigate life. So these are, and if you find the right mentors for your children,
Sure.
uh, this really helps keep your children out of trouble. So
Yeah.
kids who have that kind of background have um, are less likely to be influenced by those violent games, by the violent media.
Because we're not even on them. You know what I mean? It's like my kids do not have video games.
Yeah,
You just said, nah, it's something you really. It was just like, no, you don't need it. I was just
yeah,
like, no, like that you just don't need it. Like I'll find you something to do. We'll find you something to do. You know what I mean? Like, but I do have empathy, financially speaking, for parents like much as you
yes.
alluded to that
This
unfortunately don't have that option. They have to like, you know,
this is why I say, like, if you run a martial arts school, find a way to get some kids in there who can't afford it.
right, yeah, like just do it like
Uh,
like a charity or whatever you want to call it, a scholarship, whatever, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had community members pay for scholarships as well.
Mm,
Me, like I do give free memberships, to people who I know in my circle who are struggling, because I don't want their kids to miss out. Uh,
right. Go down that path of video games, right?
yeah, oh yeah. I want to keep. That's part of the reason I run a kids program. I want to keep kids off, off of things that make them sedentary.
Mm,
Things that, and even my boys, they don't do martial arts anymore, except for my youngest. He's still kicking ass in Muay Thai. But
yeah.
um, my boys are my older boys are weightlifting and doing fitness that
At
way.
least they're doing something. You know what I mean?
They are,
Yeah.
and I have to admit, they are
Yeah.
big video game fans, or like they're
Yeah, but they're older. We're talking about, I mean, you
yeah,
know,
like younger than, like, what was the age where I think it's about 7 before
mm,
kids start um, recognizing reality violence from fantasy violence.
that's age 7.
Yeah, something like 7 or 8, where they can start doing that.
Okay.
And up until that age, when they're exposed to violence, it's real to them. It's real. So if your 6-year old is watching
I just don't
a
understand that.
horror
Like,
movie with you,
how are they watching this? Like, why are they watching this? You know, I mean, to me, but I'm not going to be over judgmental there, but I don't understand that.
And we all make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. We don't, if we don't know the information, it's we don't
Mm,
know information. But when the
yeah,
information is presented to us, that's when we have a choice, right?
yeah.
And that's the thing, right?
I think it's great though. You're being part of the solution, the scholarships. And when I had my school, we had a scholarship, or we depending on the family's dynamic situation, whether they were getting a heavy percentage off or yeah, it was free. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think it's great you're doing that. And you know what? I think it might be really benefit from your program. Might need a scholarship would be Kevin. I think Kevin.
Uh, Kevin was a good student when he was here. He was a good boy, but he went the wrong way.
I think he needs to be reindoctrinated into your program. I'm willing. I will pay for his tuition. Kevin needs to be.
He just comes.
Kids, welcome our new student.
Oh man, I hate I when Kevin.
He's gonna kill me, man. Next thing.
Oh, it's gonna hurt both of us. That's okay. We deserve it. And Kevin's doing this. He's got a kids program going.
Oh
He's doing.
yeah, yeah. Quite successful, from what I understand, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's honestly here, like it's the backbone of what we do. It allows me to have a place to teach battles. It allows me to have a place to teach adult and teen Muay Thai, um, and my Eskrima group, right? So the kids they they give back as much as they and their
I
families, right?
think it's full circle, like you're mentioning. I just think it's a good thing. You're really doing a good thing for a kid who maybe would never get the opportunity, and life changing, potentially life changing for that individual, depending on the situation they're in or coming from, family dynamic. And yeah, and Mike, yeah, definitely do it, Mike. You're gonna feel so good about it. And the kids are the best teachers. Yeah, that's all.
They are, they are. They ask the best questions, and they see things in a completely unbiased light. And
Yeah, definitely. I hear Kevin Goat needs to work on his grip strength.
oh
Yeah, I
god,
know, Eric. I tried to, when I was up there in Canada, I tried to go over it with them, but it just was a failing cause. And I'm just like, Kevin, let's just move on to something else. I just can't do.
don't you love trying to disarm Kevin? It's fun to try and disarm.
Oh gosh, Joel has shown me private videos how to have the strongest grip strength. Well, Kevin, you know. And here's another government. Okay, Kurt's posting a couple government studies here for those who may be interested. There we go. But it's in the comment section. I know it's coming out really small here. All right, so we got pros and cons. Okay. So with that being said, it really well, okay, let's look at okay, we right now we're kind of in the FMA lane there and all that, but what about like when you're showing kind of prison methodologies on social media? Do you have the same moral compass, value system as far as the metrics that you and demographics are for YouTube channel? Do you kind of same lane, so to speak?
I never like I always age restricted. Everything I post is age restricted, which really in the end doesn't matter because kids go on their parents' YouTube and watch it, and then I let I do let my community know that my YouTube page is not for the children in my gym to watch.
So they know you've been communicating to them, so they okay, so they know if Johnny's on there looking at their.
I do,
uh,
do get impatient with things like the runaway and stuff, but I have to address it almost every video. Like if you can run, you run, because I want that message to be as
mm,
a part of the videos that I show. But there's no art. There is no skill really. It's a tactic. The prison based knife systems are a set of tactics. They're not a set of skills. And aggressive people already have the tactics.
They
They
already have most up here, right? They're
instinctively
driven. Yeah.
understand those tactics, and they use those tactics without any training, without
Mm,
um, visual cues on how to do it.
mm. Especially
If
Medusa, if you think about it, it's so gross motor. I'm going to grab you and I'm going to freaking just put this thing as quickly as humanly possible, as many times as I can. Like it's really not skill. It's really,
no, it's just
you
honest
know?
about what violence is.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so important that people understand this for their knife defense. I
Mm,
believe that if you're going to train people to defend against empty hand against edged weapons, or empty hands until you can get escape, right, and maybe put something in your hands, or whatever context, that whatever that situation becomes
mm.
and goes into, if you're going to teach that, you need to teach your defense from the standpoint of somebody using that kind of aggression on you.
Amen. It's like, how can you teach a defense if you don't understand the offense?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
amen. Amen. Yeah.
And for me, that's one of the greatest benefits I got out of doing the Medusa system. I mean,
Mm,
it's I knew. I mean, 20 years ago, 20 more than that, was before Amy was born. I had that defending against the blade video from the LAPD with
mm.
Parental on it, and where the 21-foot rule
Oh,
came
the 2020. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. Yeah.
up to 30 feet, whatever it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
because everybody thinks that we should have like this linear logic applied to this. There's no linear logic that can apply to knife aggression, but
Yeah.
it gave us an idea of what it's like, right?
Yeah. It was a
And
nice stepping stone, right? I mean, there was a reference, right?
yeah, and then the Dog Brothers had a brief
Mm,
set of videos, Die Less Often,
mm,
right? Great. Them Dog Mark Denny and Gabe
mm,
Swart, freaking brilliant set of videos. I think
mm.
every Filipino martial arts practitioner should buy those videos. Um, the first book I had that gave me a realistic context in knife fighting was Don Pentecost, and I'm not gonna, it was from Paladin Press. I got it in the 1990s,
Okay.
early. Uh, Put them down and take them out. Knife fighting techniques from full. Yes, that is
You know, I
the
have this right here because I'm
why.
working on this project with Mahi Powell for his immersion lab. Well, you can kind of figure out what it's going to be about. But yeah,
That is
so everybody was referencing this book, and I found like a last copy. Guess how much I paid for this thing?
how much.
$50. And I
Yeah,
heard back in the day you could get it for a song, you know?
I lent it out to somebody. I have a copy somewhere, but it's available on Kindle in a really
Yeah.
shitty format. But the information's there, and that's important information in that book.
Oh yeah.
That that was a really important book in knife defense, because it gave you the idea of what you're up against. Uh,
Mm,
and that's where I started. The information's out there. You can go to a bookstore, you can go to Kindle, you can get military knife books, you can
mm.
um, you know if you want the information, it's there.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
um,
Amy
but
found Amy
I
thinks she has your book.
the social media is just maybe too easy access. Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah.
um, but I for me, like, I don't believe that any eh, very, like, there's going to be the exception. There's going to be, at some point, there's going to be, like you were talking about the bouncer who got killed. There's going to be those exceptions,
Yeah,
but for
I
the
think
most
so. I
part,
think that's fair. Yeah. Yeah, no, well said on you. This is great. I knew you were going to nail this out of the park. So, prison systems, no real concern because most of these kids are watching other things and that. But
they
uh,
they see it
the
in other.
settings too, though. you're the privacy settings, like you're making sure they can't even get, yeah.
Don't put it open. Don't age restrict your YouTube stuff. Age restrict your like my Patreon's age restricted.
Mm.
Uh, um, I don't want kids learning the stuff I love.
Yeah, like on like
Well, they're
I
older.
hold myself accountable to this. Like on Instagram, I put some Piper stuff. However, though, everybody that's on my Instagram, I know, like, because it's my account's private, so there's nobody that's now. Could I get out of there? Yeah. So I've been really thinking about, which is why I haven't done any more on there, because I was starting to wrestle with that personally. Like, hey, is this really the place to be doing? I don't know. It was something I was kind of struggling with. So haven't done it recently, and even despite my account being private and nobody else able just to go on there and see anything. But
My
yeah,
um, where I balance that is, do I want to get out? You know what? I want to get out to certain people. I want to instill an interest for people who see that, you know what, I want to be a bit of like I want to be prepared to protect
mm,
myself, to protect, you know, if God forbid that you are there when somebody's hurting someone who can't fight back. If you're trained, you have a little more. You can make a choice with a little more confidence. If you understand violence, you're not going to be quick to make that choice. You're going to
mm,
think about it because you know that even though you're trained, shit happens, and it could, one bad stab and that's it, right? But when when you're trained, you have something a little more than if you're not. If you're not trained, you might be more quick to jump in there because you think that
yeah, you don't know the reality, and you think you're just gonna go in there
yeah,
and save the day because you haven't seen the full picture. And yeah,
yeah.
yeah, agreed on that. Here, ooh, I can answer this based, and I for the parallel what I do with women who um okay, here it is. So, how would you teach a student knife defense without teaching them knife offense? When he
I don't,
said student, I'm going to assume they're not a kid, but I'm sure Kevin.
yeah,
Oh,
I would teach kids knife defense first of all.
yeah, yeah, but
So,
I'm assuming he's not. Maybe perhaps he's not meeting a child. So
I,
we'll go with adult. I'm assuming
as an adult, I don't think you can, I, without showing how to do a proper feed. And
kids too. Kids is out, but yeah.
are you going to do it? So they will learn. They will learn. You may not be telling them, So you're going to grab here. You're going to, yeah, keep stabbing me, and then, you know, then I'll do the best to minimize my damage. And that's what knife defense is. Is like, yeah, I'm going to try to minimize the damage, and then I'm going to do something. Like for me, it's a lot of getting a hold of that arm and then just fucking chin jabbing or hammer fisting or
Mm,
as much, or getting a sweep, doing as much as I can while that arm is trapped. There's not a lot of disarming that I do. I mean, I do some. I do because I also believe that the artistry is important, and if you don't train the disarm and it presents itself, you never will be able to use that opportunity, right? So
tough thing, man, when it comes to that. Like kids, like much to your point, the kids are just not there. They're just not there for that curriculum. Yeah, I
oh,
mean, and that's just me personally. I'm not saying if others do it, I'm not judging you. I just choose not to.
the other
Um,
the other thing about kids is we have to balance their mental health
mm,
with everything we do. So if we're exposing them to this horrific world of,
no, right? And they're just coming there for an activity to, like,
if we
because
can
maybe, yeah.
throw a good jab cross, or if you're like a hip toss, if you teach judo, and we give them a
Mm,
sporting environment where they get to do that for real, guess what? If they have to apply it, they'll be able to do it. Hopefully, they never get in a situation where they have to face lethal force, they're more likely to get into a situation where
Yeah.
they
It's
face
tricky, man. So,
another kid who has aggression issues, another kid who, so, uh, you know, if a lot of kids, the problem of violence with children can be
mm,
solved by giving them good boxing skills, good judo skills, good Muay Thai.
yeah. And then from there, when they get older, then you can segue into, and now you know they're vested. They've been with you a while. You got a good handle on their character. But other than that, it's a tough scenario. You know what I do to make it easier for myself? Like I just said, I just don't do it. Like I just don't show them anything because now it just makes it clear cut across the board where I'm not making I'm not overthinking it. I'm not making exceptions. But
So for the
Kevin, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, yeah. For the Arnis I share with kids, I make it like a stick fencing program. We
Mm.
play at the end of every class where they line up on the wall. They have 3 lives each. They do point sparring, like they come out charging three on two.
That
Kids,
sounds fun.
usually me and Keith, right?
Yeah,
Two.
yeah.
It's knights versus ogres. It's a fun game. They learn
Shoulders.
they learn stutter. Like I have one guy, big. He learns to stutter his big caveman strike and
Yeah.
mess my timing. And they're doing all sorts of great stuff for stick fighting, but they just call it the game. Let's do the game. Okay, yeah, we'll play the game. And they're learning.
Yeah. I like it.
But that's what I do with kids. I don't. There's nothing combative.
Yeah, I think I like that approach. I just think, man, you're going on a slippery slope with that.
Oh,
But Kevin had a question.
okay.
But you just taught them how to stab someone, didn't you? That was Kevin. I think he's referencing when you were like an adult was there and you were showing him like what to do. I think that was in the context to that, I believe.
And I don't understand.
So his question is, let me just find again. This bar is going a little crazy. Okay. So what Kevin's asking in regards to what you were talking about before with the adult student, how you're showing how to defend an empty hand against knife. Kevin's question to that scenario that you were referencing, but you just taught them how to stab someone, didn't you?
The
That's
adult, yeah,
that's it.
yeah. Oh, sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
but when you're teaching that
Mm.
self defense, the person who is doing the stabbing is taking the role of the bad guy. So
Correct.
there's a moral compass around what you're teaching. The the person who's defending. The other thing is, okay, with that moral compass, when you teach your students this and you're drilling it,
Mm.
not sparring, not in where it's full resistance, but when you're drilling it, you have to coach your students to let the defendant. You can make it difficult for them,
Mm.
but they have to win because they have to. You have to impact the psychology that you can survive it. If you come in and you attack them and you cut them to ribbons, then
Mm.
then they will never have um, the faith in what they're doing. When you spar, when you play, you can make it a lot more resistant. You can resist fully, and you can find what works for you. You can pressure test it. But when it comes to training, you got to impact that ideal that yes, you survived. Yes, you survived.
You have to give
You
them I think you have to give them overall recognition. Recognition of what they're doing right, what their success and all that. Otherwise, man, you're gonna have somebody that's gonna be really down. You know what I
and you
mean?
got to let them know that you're going to get stabbed. You're
Yeah,
going to get.
right. You have to be reality. Hey, look, you're not leaving
The
unscathed. Yeah.
best we can do is help you minimize damage, and you may not survive.
Yeah,
You
no, no, no. Right. You have to be transparent, right? I mean that's that's a whole nother issue. This whole thing of,
oh
I struggle with this too. This whole thing on knife thing, like the transparency in the relation of honesty, integrity to self, and honesty to the market that you're teaching to and such. You know what I mean? Not to digress. You know.
yeah, it's funny because back in the day, we used to always, like a lot of martial artists would give absolutes, and there's no absolutes in the violence. There's no absolutes. And if you're, first of all, if you're defending, if,
Mm,
you know, if you can be preemptive, be preemptive if you know that it's going to kick off, right?
mm,
You don't wait for someone else to hit you first. That's stupid, right? If so I'm not talking about knife here, okay?
just
Just
yeah, hands. Okay.
general. If if you know that someone's going to hit you or whatever, hit them first. You know, don't
Yeah,
wait
they're
for.
not listening to any verbal cues or anything. They're still trying to encroach on your space. I mean, you're doing everything humanly possible. I mean,
So this goes deeper, right? So
mm,
one thing I teach is like when you commit to a boundary
yeah.
and you like fuck off, just stay back there, you know, give me my space. I'm just leaving. Or you're
Mm,
like, I'm really sorry. I don't know what I did. I apologize. Can you just give me some space? You know, depending how you're you're presenting your fence, right?
mm.
If they don't respect your space when you tell them, please just stay over there or stay the fuck back, whichever route you're going, that's a pretty good indication that they're going to attack you.
Yeah, 'cause they're not backing off. They're not listening to anything, and they keep encroaching. Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
But unfortunately, we live in a culture where we don't have the because a lot of that we don't have the ability to really keep that range because we let people in our space all the time. So that's
I know
that.
it's. I know we're social creatures, and we
Yeah,
don't. We're like we're reluctant to really enforce boundaries of like because I might make the first person feel bad or what have you, as opposed to like man, like for instance, you know what really like under my system Blade Tech what really made me like look at this stuff and a certain and one of my levels in Blade Tech was man the stuff of Piper Medusa that you let that person like get close to you man I mean like just like where you already screwed up like you let them to somebody you didn't know that was kind of exhibiting you're on their radar and they
but you better do a lot of training
yeah
from that
yeah
position because you likely will.
yeah
You likely will, right? I live in a spot in my little town where there's a lot of homeless people, and I
mm,
talk all the time. I'm very, very like I'm kind of known in the community, and because I give a shit and I help people out when I can.
well, that's awesome though.
Uh,
Mm.
Um, but I'm always in conversation. I mean, I was talking to a guy the other day. I was looking, I'm like, oh, there's a bone handle of a knife sticking out from underneath his jacket. Okay, so I got to watch that. But we had a great
Yeah, see,
conversation.
right, talking like this. So, hey,
Yeah,
like,
I was like, I was, my was
like, what's
back.
this guy doing with his hand by my freaking waist?
Yeah, I wasn't giving him any. I mean, if he touched the handle, I think I was pretty primed to go. But he was
Yeah,
a real,
yeah,
he, and and quite honestly, they're the most victimized portion of they feed on each other, right?
yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but there's been a lot of old people having hassles in my town from
Oh, that's too bad to hear. The old elderly being, yeah, that's actually very
the
sickening.
our target, right? So because when I got to be aware of that. I walk with a limp, and the more
Oh,
you look like an easy target. Yeah,
now you're on somebody's radar. Like that's got to be really weird. Like, not that I'm over. Like I walk out of Walmart, for instance, and I'm, you know what I mean. But I do try to
just
create
be
good
aware.
habits of seeing what's out there. But man, like you said, we get older and like we're
Yep,
like,
yep. And impact enhancers become like I live in Canada, so we don't have concealed carry law.
mm.
Like that's
You guys
just not.
can't carry anything, right? No knives, no guns.
Well, the way it works is anything. that's carried for the purpose of self-defense. So I'm fucked, right? Like quite honestly, because I do these videos and I like for me to be a gray man, to follow that. I wish I could, but I also want to promote. I want to promote this ideal of, I'm going to say something corny, but warriorship. I want to promote that. And so I've put myself in a position where if I ever have to defend myself, if I ever have to use lethal force, I'm going to have a harder time defending myself in court because of all of the stuff that I've promoted over the years. So I have to be really polite, really.
That's another thing too. You just touched upon something, another direction that they'll be congruent within this conversation. Like, in other words, like any one of us who are active for social media teaching, our names out there, and then they go and we do something which we maybe at the time thought was justified. Now they take our background and so, Mr. Franco, you've been training A, Y, and Z, and
that that is that is probably the bigger danger of posting on social media.
yes,
Yeah,
I would have to agree with you.
on social media is how it could affect you if you ever have to deal with a extreme violent situation and
Like,
force.
I know, Mr. Franco, what is this Piper stuff? I mean, like, think about it, like a offensive driven system,
Joel, what's this Medusa stuff?
all
Instruct.
right, you know what I mean? I mean, just yeah, but what's your point though? You're absolutely right. I think that's when it's going to come back to potentially haunt us
Yes.
if we land in court one day, as opposed to a 16-year-old like watching. Oh my God, that's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for my students, I'm like I have this uh, woman who trains with me, and when we did one video where she was doing some combative stuff, but she put a Pikachu toque covered her balaclava because she doesn't want people to know. She's smart.
That is very smart, actually.
She is
Good for
got a
them.
really good background. She's a karate black belt, has done
Mm.
4 years of Israel. Like she lived in Israel and did 4 years
Okay.
of over there. She knows her shit, but she's not doing this for a business. She's not trying to promote a lifestyle. She's taking care of herself.
I
Smart.
think it's great. I'm just gonna be Guru Joel. I just want to make sure I'm not miss. These comments are flying in, and sometimes I get neglectful, not seeing if there are any
Oh.
questions in there. Raymond Floor. I don't teach kids; they're evil. Oh my God, that's funny. We got Casey, another Vancouver in Canada. Okay, we got Brett jumped in. Richard Luntz. There's a good guy. All right, there is a question. I'm so okay. All right, so going back to the main topic, are you teaching bad guys how to kill or teaching good people how to defend? And in the process, are they learning how to stab someone? Why, as instructors, are we responsible for what our students do? If we buy a gun from a store and we shoot someone, does the store get in trouble for selling the gun? This is kind of like the
Ooh.
DWI. Is the bar held accountable for serving the guy 15
It,
shots of whiskey?
uh, for the bar,
I'm just making a parallel to the bar
held accountable for
because, yeah,
oversight.
accountability. But I can repeat. It was. You want me to repeat it again? It was kind of long-winded.
No, so that's a good point, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Are
can
we
put it in the comment. Here, let me put it
it's
under here.
what you do with information where because they're gonna, if somebody wants the information, they're gonna get it, right? There's a million military books on how to stab people. There's
Hmm.
I have like book after book on my shelf on knife combatives, weapons combatives. If somebody wants the information, they're going to get it.
They're gonna get it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you responsible for the information you give?
Yeah.
No, you're not. But you want to give the caveats, the you want to encourage people to have their um, temperament in control. You want to talk about that side of things, so you're not
Mm.
one story, you're giving a deeper story and trying to promote a deeper understanding. Like, for instance, I remember when I was a younger guy, and I was just getting interested in this stuff. I picked up a book by a man named Mark McYoung.
Mark McGinn. Okay.
Yeah, you've heard of him, of course, right? Mark Animal McYoung,
Mark.
big
Oh,
self-defense name.
okay.
And and he used to write from regardless of what people think of him, he he I love his writing. Um, but he wrote from the perspective of a thug in his first um, couple of self-defense books, and his one of the first book I think I read from him was knife fighting and related hassles.
Mhm.
And in that book he talks about, it's the information's old school. It's from 30 plus years ago. But he talks about temperament. He talks about being in control. It was a knife book, but for me at the time, what I needed was
Mm.
self-help stuff that was hidden inside of
Hidden
his.
in there, hidden messages. Okay. All right.
So when you give this information, um, you also have to give caveats. You also have to give, look, if you use it, you're probably going to be
Going away.
legally, and you need to understand use of force laws. You need to understand, you
Mm.
tell people these things, and they have to do that, just like them coming to your site to get research, the Medusa system or whatever they come to my site for. On top of that, this information needs to be presented as well. And I get tired of always saying the same things, but
Mm.
and getting the same comments. That was murder. That's another one that we could discuss. Um, but in the end, you have to talk about how use of force models have to be understood. You have to know how to explain your actions, and you have to also be aware that talking after you have to understand combat psychology. So when you are excited and hyped, you got adrenaline running, shut your
Mm.
fuck, don't talk.
Mm.
In Canada, we have the right not to self-incriminate. In the States, you have, what is it called? You have the right to remain
There.
silent. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Filter it through a lawyer, but you may have to understand self-defense law enough where you have to educate your lawyer, because not all lawyers
Mm.
are deeply immersed in self-defense law. So you have to research. If you are someone who believes that being able to defend yourself is something you should be able to do. Being able
Mm.
to scale your use of force to the appropriate level to the situation is something you should be able to do, and should be allowed to do in your country and your culture. You need to understand the laws that go with that. If you don't, you are setting yourself up for failure. If you depend on a lawyer to do that, not all lawyers are self-defense lawyers. Not
Good
all lawyers.
point. Yeah. Right. They're a corporate lawyer, right? They're not going to know what to. Yeah.
Well, even criminal lawyers um, are looking for a plea bargain. That's it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
look
Right. They're just right there.
you
Here's a.
so if you do go to court, your lawyer's going to encourage you to 90% in Canada, 96, 94%, 96% in the States. Encourage you to plead. That's
The pleader
most
down. Yeah. Yeah.
most cases plea. 90% plea go to a plea bargain in Canada.
Interesting.
94, 96 in the States.
I would have never guessed that high. Wow.
You need to understand. That's according to Varg Freeborn, and like I did look online, but that's where I got that statistic.
It's
Um,
parallel. Yeah. Okay.
his book is excellent. Um, in if I the one book, Mark McYoung's In the Name of Self Defense, is a good book to understand what self defense is and why it's not a physical discipline. It's a legal term, and you need to understand what that means in your culture and your country. In Canada, we have the right to reasonable force. To
Mm.
I'll give you an example. About 7 years ago in my community, um, a young lady was in a bad place. It was a drug house. Her estranged boyfriend came there, and she stabbed him to death in the altercation that happened. Charges were
Within the dwelling.
within this crack house or whatever it
Okay.
was, and
Okay.
I don't say that because their families are in my community, and I don't want to put. And
Yeah. Yeah.
she survived, and she's I don't want to say anything negative towards the people that were
Mhm.
involved, but he died. She killed him. She never got charged because the situation was deemed, her use of force was deemed reasonable to the situation,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Strength difference, probably had a lot of records of him being violent.
Yeah. Right. And plus, it's in the dwelling.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm sure all those. Yeah. Yeah.
for the purpose of, so um, another instance in Canada where using a gun is like something you never, you know, there's a few instances where people, one where a guy shot someone trying to run him over with the ATV he was stealing. That guy
Mm.
got with gun offenses, never got charged with murder, never got charged with manslaughter. He got charged
Interesting.
with wrongful storage of a firearm
Okay.
because he had it at the ready. It's not allowed. Okay. Another guy in Toronto managed to get his gun properly stored, properly permitted weapon out of his safe, loaded, killed one person. The other two fled because of the situation after he spent a lot, like it still fucked his life, right? But
Mm.
a lot of money. But the Crown just looked at the situation after he spent 2 weeks in jail, after he, probably lost his job, all the stuff that the consequences that go with it, spent all that money on a lawyer. They went,
Mm.
oh, that was actually reasonable force. We're not bringing charges against you.
Yeah. Because due to maybe like the whole thing with three. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. I
Yeah,
mean.
you do have it's a hard. It would be a hard. Um, you're rowing up. You're rowing against the current if you use extreme force in my country, probably in
I
yours.
think, but even here, though, pending the state, if it's Democratic or more on the liberal side, if you're going to what they would deem as extreme, and that, I mean, all our states are not like Texas, but if you're in a liberal state, it's gonna be a tougher day in court. And it's just the way it is. We're not like each state doesn't like. In other words, we don't have like where it's similar all across, that the laws and the punishment following the law for, I mean, breaking, whatever the crime was. In other words, it's all fluctuated. I mean, certain states, the southern states, tend to be not, if they're Republican, there's tends to be more latitude. The Democrat states, man.
Yeah, and that's where I'm torn, right? I can't. I'm in middle of both sides. I want to have a social net for people who need it, but fuck, man, I don't want to see people demonized for protecting themselves. I don't want to
Oh,
see,
yeah, yeah.
you know, but you know, my point though was you need to understand what the consequences are, what they
Mm.
can be, and what you're facing if you are forced to use this stuff. It's not, don't, you can't let it, when you have to use force, you have to use force.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Tim Larkin's book, When Violence is the Answer. When violence is the answer, his famous quote, it is the only answer,
Yeah,
right?
like you, yeah, you're right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Off
that's certain,
all
unfortunately.
stuff. I say violence when I teach self-defense or personal protect, whatever you want to label it. I put on my pyramid that physical is about 5%.
Of the actual, your as far as protocol and what they should be doing, as far as until they get to that. Okay.
Having good personal boundaries,
Mm,
de-escalation, like the list goes on. What underlies that?
yeah.
And then and you got to be careful when you explain this, because people who have survived violence, to them, when you're talking about this, it feels like you're blaming them for what happened to them. So you got to be really careful how you explain this, and you have to acknowledge that this,
Mm,
right. But you need to people need to understand that it's much deeper than fucking shanking somebody. It's like when I'm shanking my poor beat up dummy over there.
yeah.
It, this is
Poor,
this is
poor Bob.
this is like, so with that 5%,
Yeah.
that tip of the iceberg, if we made that into how much percentage of that would be controlling, um, you know,
Yeah. It's a,
able being
yeah.
able to hold somebody down, being able to um, choke somebody, being able to
Mm,
run would be the appropriate force, right? And then that that would be a 5%. I'm
mm,
just this, but that level of force would be a very tip of that
right.
self-defense. Is very rare. It's very rare. I love training it. I love training, but I do a lot of box. I like Thai boxing as best I can with my bad back and stuff. I play with a lot of other levels of force when I,
Mm,
right. I I just seem to be, um, I just have, I don't know why. I love training Medusa. I love training that stuff on my bag. Um,
mm.
and I think maybe I'm a little touched, but it's my favorite thing to train. And I love,
I think the reality is if you do a lot of knife work, defensively, offensively, if that's a good part of your training, good, better, and different, I think I think we're all a little touched. I just, you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean like, that we're going to be the ones that are going to go out and do anything. I don't mean in
oh
that regard.
no,
Actually, polar opposite. But for us to be immersed in this subject area and what we do and trying to refine, there's something going on.
well, I'll give you a little insight into my experience with this, right. um, when I was a kid, I learned very young that you cannot depend on anybody to protect you.
Mm,
There was My sister's 18 months older than me, and we were wild. Like, we were brought up in a pretty dark environment at points, and we didn't depend on our parents. We depended on each other. And
mm,
at one point, she was starting to get stalked, right? And whoever it was, followed her home on multiple occasions, was try, trying to scare her, and you know I chased, like, me and my one of my good friends. We almost caught him. We chased him. He got in the car, got away. We had weapons. We were gonna kill him.
yeah.
Um, we were scared kids, right? We were
Yeah,
scared
yeah,
kids.
yeah,
15. I was 15. I was gonna beat him with a crowbar.
yeah.
Um, we chased him, and we took my dad's vehicle. We never went to my parents were sleeping. We never woke them up and got their help. One time we were alone. We phoned the police because the person was there. They wouldn't come. They thought it was a prank call. I
Yeah.
I had to get my friend to phone his mom. She was an operator. She had a good relationship with the police. She got the police out there for us. We That's where I learned it's up to you. right?
Yeah, like you said, first responder. I mean, all that. We got just making sure.
Want to hear
All
the end of?
the questions, if I've not missed any.
Okay, so in the end, I'm just gonna tell you this: when a young guy named Terry Burlingham went to jail for killing 2 girls in my town, my sister's stalking stopped.
Interesting.
Right? I don't know if that's a coincidence. I don't know if it was him. I hope to God it wasn't, because he's getting released from prison soon. Um,
I
but
don't know. You know, the whole thing on coincidence.
that's that's where this stuff happened that made me fascinated with knives. I bought army manuals and I would train them. That's how I started in all this stuff, right? My cousin Jason Pelfrey and I was probably 20. After all that, I did some martial arts, but then I bought the army field manuals and
Mm,
stuff, and we bought shitty boxing gloves, shitty, and we had no idea how to spar, so we just beat the shit out of each other, and that was my introduction to martial arts, real really training it, trying to learn it. Jason Pelfrey and I are still we've three of my, I think 2 or 3 times we've had real fights, and he's one of my, yeah, I love the man. He's one of my best friends, and he still trains. I still train. He's doing DeCampo, and um, yeah, and it started with us just you know getting drunk on whiskey and beating the shit out of each other.
yeah, and playing around. Wow. So here's okay. Here's the final quite all right question. Well, how would you answer somebody? Okay, so through this conversation on in relation to social media, should you post or should you not post? Um, if you had to pick an answer, what would it be? Totally related to knife. I mean, knife offensive tactics.
So um, that's um, obviously I believe you should post,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Because I do, and the main reason I do is because I want to attract people who want to be able to protect their families, want to be able to protect
Mm,
themselves. And from the feedback I get from uh, my YouTube page, I get a lot of dads. I get a lot of my demographic is 100% male, by the way. 100%. There isn't a single female who, I don't know why. Look at my face. I mean, come on. Why aren't anyway? Uh,
why am I not getting more females?
but the beside
You gotta get. Oh, You gotta bring. I tell you, I get more females.
bring me
Okay.
on more.
You bring Kevin. You gotta bring Kevin.
Oh,
If you bring Kevin into your videos, I'm gonna guarantee you more. You got
I
more of a women
know that
presence.
that smooth guy. Yeah,
He's gonna
he's
come in his vet. You're gonna
that's
film him. He's gonna come in his vet. He's gonna get out of his vet. He's gonna walk in the door.
tight shirt.
And you're gonna start getting more women who are
Hear that,
good
Kevin?
Japanese.
If you've stayed here and listened to me ramble this long, yes, yes, Kevin is the. I mean, Keith and I mean, we're pretty good looking guys, but Kevin has that sex appeal for sure.
He's gonna pull up in his vet. He's gonna get out. You're gonna see this. They're gonna see this
Unless,
guy
you know,
walking in there, and you're gonna start getting women subscribers. Just
if we could just hit that demographic of women with grandpa issues. No, just kidding.
so he's saying Dean has PTSD about that vet. There could be, you know what? You might not. That thing was scary when it launched. I'm gonna be
I,
honest. You're in the passenger seat and you're
right.
just seeing like things flying by you on the side that normally you guys are making me blush. See, you start bringing some videos in there, you're going to increase your women
We
subscribers.
actually did some
Guarantee
stuff
you.
last time he visited.
See?
And he got to meet Guru Louis, Guru Ed Wong, who is probably in Canada one of the best sources for self-protect, like really good self-defense type. His expression of CLAT is amazing.
Heard nothing but
You
good things about him.
Oh yeah, I I think Guru Ed is he, I just admire his professionalism
Yeah.
and the content that he teaches. It's fantastic, fantastic. He's under the
Um,
radar, but he is one of the best in Canada as far as I'm concerned. Guru Louis is
yeah, there's another one. I mean,
God.
there and a matter of fact, he's kind of, you guys should see the comments I get from guys who want to see my feet. Brian Canada. Dean should start doing shirtless vids. It would get more involvement in FMA discussion. I'm sorry, Brian. That won't be happening for various reasons. So, oh, bunch of that is funny.
Get many.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, brother. So, yeah, we're going on. We're going on an hour and a half, man. This thing's been flying by. So with that, okay, what would you tell folks? Let's wrap it. Okay, here's a way we can kind of wrap this up. What would you tell folks who are in that middle of the road? They're wrestling with maybe their moral compass or just ethics that want to post night vids. What would you give them as far as helpful suggestions, or maybe to ease their conscience, or if they're in the middle of the road, so to speak?
Well, first of all, do what's right for you. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me because this is my opinion,
Gotcha.
right? I, you have to, in the end, do what's right for you. But if you want to post it, I don't think you have to fear that the wrong person's going to get
You
the.
want that fear is going to be based on your demographics, some of the statistics that you research. Okay.
And quite honestly, if someone wants to be violent with a knife, they already know how to do it. They
Yeah.
know how, right?
It's in our DNA. Let's
So
face it. Yeah.
if you want to post and if you want to attract people into that kind of martial arts, do it because the more we can give to um, good people,
Mm.
skills we can give to good people, the safer we make our communities, right? Because it's the
Mm.
people who are willing to step up that end up saving people.
Yeah,
It's
people are willing to, right, to get, yeah, no,
like
no.
look at that situation in
Yeah,
France. It was the guy with the backpack, right?
yeah, yeah.
He
Yeah.
fighting skills, but he had a heart to protect those children who were getting injured. If you had fighting,
No.
I'm not saying, but I'm saying people with that heart should be allowed to go and get the skills to help them be able to face that worst case scenario. And if you're promoting that, promote it, promote it. Don't, yeah, I don't think bad people are gonna um,
Mm.
from you. They're too busy just hurting people.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's not like they need a video to, further substantiate their activities already. Or yeah, yeah, no, good point. Like to see, I think maybe we won't be able to post videos much longer in the past next few years.
Oh,
I think.
too.
Uh, Give me a think about. Thanks, guys. Skyler here using his wife's Facebook. False, false alarm. No woman. Okay. I think maybe we won't be able to post videos here for much longer. Uh, yeah, this is awesome, man. I appreciate it. Any final thoughts for the community based on the subject matter?
Um, Well, no, I just well, I don't know what to say. You put me on the spot here, Dean. My final thoughts. I just think this. I've never experienced anything to make me um, think that people who are out hurting people
Mm,
need. There, you know, this information generally goes to people who are worried about people who want to hurt others. You
okay.
know, and I think
That's
that it
fair.
should get to those people. And I think if you are out there trying to get that information to other people, you are part of a web of individuals. I mean, you know, there's a lot of us. I'm, small scale, but then there's
Mm,
Morrison getting information out to people, Mike Raymond,
right,
Scott Bach.
right.
Um, there's all these people out there who are promoting a warrior lifestyle in a time where it feels like our culture is becoming more and more chaotic. And I
Yeah.
think all of those people, and if you want to be one of them, are important. And I do believe in my heart that they are important, like that they are needed right now.
Yeah, especially the way things are happening and are going. You know what I mean? You know,
Kevin's reaching a lot of people.
Kevin. Oh yeah, yeah, which is fantastic, and I'm very happy for him. I have an issue with that goat man, that monster of a man. No, I think it's great what he's doing up there. Anybody knows how I feel about Kevin Goat, even though I
Well, you got
break
to.
breaking
I
his
mean,
balls, I guess, with the vet.
I stand up belly button. He's, you know, you know, it's yeah. You got to make fun because man, you're not gonna.
It's so funny. My family was making fun of me, man. They were like, when you were standing next to him, you look like a little boy. I'm like, man.
Yeah, when we did that one video, he stood in a dip in the ground, so I wasn't quite as short as I usually am around him. But
Yeah,
uh,
I said,
yeah, yeah, he's tall and skilled.
not just tall, man. He's
Yeah, he's built. He's strong.
240, 250. He's hitting the weights. The weights. He shouldn't even be allowed to touch the weights. He
No,
should
no,
not even be allowed to touch weights. That's you know what? That's absurd. That he gets to go lift weights and further expand on his size. That I think is criminal.
I think he had that in one of his last videos.
He's saying he's 265 now.
Yeah, don't mess with the goat. You got to hit him from behind with the pipe if you're gonna.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
hit
don't
him
want
with a freaking car. Are you kidding me?
car. A car would be better.
here's my
You might,
here's
you
my
might.
JKD.
Yeah, using what is useful and discarding the rest.
That's freaking 265. I purposely been putting some weight
It's
on it.
like
I'm like,
Rick sensitivity, like you wouldn't believe too, right? Like you touch hands with him, and he's just like he's before you even know what you're doing, he knows what you're doing. Yeah, the
yeah,
guy's awesome.
yeah, that's just somebody like,
Stop, Kevin.
hey, 5 foot rule right there. I know Mike Raymond's son is a monster.
7 feet.
That that's
That
that's that's
definitely
insanity. That's
fight.
insanity.
We should arrange that match. And he's a boxer. He's got yeah. He probably hits like a Mack truck.
That's insanity.
Yeah, I wouldn't want. I would not
That's
want
me
to.
handing out my wallet. Okay, here are my credit cards. Here's one that says zero
Yeah,
balance. Here you go. There's that's just like
yeah. Take
that just gets weird. Like, man, yeah, no, come on now.
the worst case
Awesome,
scenario.
man. This has been great, fun and great. But appreciate you as always. You know, I'm a fan of what you're doing, and we're definitely gonna bring you back the book. I'm gonna get through the book, and we'll bring you back on the book.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Dean.
I
I
just
hope you.
thought this was so relevant. I wanted to cover this first. It just really spoke to me when I saw that vid of you, and I just wanted to capitalize on the momentum.
Well, and you
You
know
know,
what? I'm grateful for everybody. I talked to Scott Babb. I talked to Mike.
Mm.
I talked to Jason Schultz. I even got James Keating to comment on it, and who
Some
else?
big names.
Yeah, and they all were happy to and helpful, and well, shout out to James Keating for being the godfather of knife combatives
No,
in America, opening
kind
the
of sort of is, right? And jeez.
and God, that man is a genius. Um, let's not forget him in this conversation because he is the one that pioneered that Comtech
Mm.
eight
Yeah, he's
craft.
yeah,
Like
definitely yeah, you
what a
can't. I still
brilliant.
been trying to get him on, but his reception out there is such an issue. He's got to go like down the hill, and I mean, it's just. But
Yeah,
hopefully,
yeah, he's isolated. I'm
still
planning on
working on it.
this summer. I'm really because I've he's been a mentor through conversation. He actually
Mm.
um he promoted me as a writer. Um,
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
got me a little bump up in that world. Um, and he's been so helpful over the years. We've had many long discussions, and so I want to go and just train with him a little bit,
Mm.
get some of his long range knife stuff because that's so important. If knife to knife, that long range is so important.
Keep them over there, man. In there, yeah, it's not a bad, right?
Yeah,
Awesome,
and
awesome.
I like well, even though my base is kind of point driven because of
Mm.
the influence. Um, when it comes to knife, it changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah, man.
Close.
If you can flash that thumb and index finger and they drop it and you're out of there. Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah,
That's what.
100%.
Yeah,
Can't argue that for sure. Awesome. Well, hey, great seeing you again. I will definitely be in touch. I'm going to get through that book and we'll get you back on here.
awesome. Thank you, sir. Have a
All
great
right.
day.
You take care, man. Watch out for that guy that drives that vet, man.
Oh, I know. I hope we get to see
I'm just telling you, man. Use your JKD. A car is suitable
a
for him.
sledgehammer. Whatever you need. Don't mess with the goat.
I'm telling you, man. All right, you take care.
Thank you, sir. Have a great. Thank you, everybody who stayed and listened to me ramble too.
Absolutely. Oh, you didn't ramble. It was good stuff. Good stuff. All
Awesome.
right. All right. All right, folks. That wraps up 457. Who is on next? Next Wednesday. I think test run's gonna be Monday. Not even sure if I want to give it away. I've always respected him from afar. Never really had much dialogue with him until very recently, but comes highly acclaimed, reputable. Um, he is a Medusa fella, a big fella too, very big fella. And Brian Canada, so thankful for him. He kind of coordinated this, but you'll see the flyer very soon. But yeah, another one of those scary guys. And yeah, but thank you everybody that tuned in, watched, commented, submitted questions. Appreciate it. And if you are seriously on a serious note, if you are ever in Calgary, do check out Kevin Goat. Yeah, guy, I had the pleasure, I mean, the honor of doing a project with him, knife defense, and he's definitely the real deal. Crashing him over the weekend, I think I came back. I think my shoulder was out for a week or something. But yeah, he is the real deal. And I'm not talking about just his size. I know we're making fun of him with a car, but really, hands. He just got his black belt. Does blunt walk. Not sure. I think there's another FMA style he dabbles in, and but just very well rounded. Yeah, besides his size. So yeah, if you're in there, do check him out. You won't be disappointed in all that. So all right, folks. Wednesday night. You guys will see the flyer Monday. Do check this guy out though. Brian kind of he can tell you all about this guy. All right, folks. See you soon.